tiny contained stall, and he had some kind of a cupping, plastic cupping on the side of the cow's body, but there was a hole in it, and it was cut through to the cow's innards, and the guy was digging into the cow through this crazy cupped hole. And
Reaching into one of his stomachs.
yeah, and then he was explaining where the stomachs are, and the stomachs, are actually up and on the outside of the cow's body. And he was reaching in there and talking about how the cows develop all kinds of bacteria, not wanted bacteria, not good bacteria, similar to what we've talked about on the show about good and bad bacteria in our guts. The bad bacteria in there, and how he was having to reach in there because either of, I don't know what he was pulling out, but he was pulling something out of the cow's stomach, and how that went back to one of the things that they said is they developed this bad bacteria and bad stomachs in these cows, and only if they finished them on 8 days of grass-fed, it rebalances that population in their belly to the good bacteria.
Yeah.
That's all they would need. But they don't finish them on 8 days. They keep them in the feedlots.
Yeah, well, there's too
And
many cows. I mean, when he brought up that idea, when Michael Pollan brought up the idea, if you just gave these cows like a week's worth of roaming, when they showed the amount of cattle that are processed, there's not room for that in any reasonable sense.
Well, there would
Like,
be if
it's-
they weren't in huge conglomerates. I mean, if
But there's
farmers
not
were
enough-
having 300 cows versus 3,000 cows.
Yeah, but you're not going to. The places where cows are fed and are processed, the massive cattle industry is in places where grass doesn't grow.
That's part
Right?
of
Like
it.
you're not going to just send
But they
those cows
ship 'em
out into. I know because
all
they
over
can
the country.
because they can feed them. Because they can feed. What I'm saying is the places where grasses grow, you also have places that get frozen. Right? Like it's very difficult for cattle farmers in Minnesota and Iowa to do proper cattle farming
Well, what they do
with grass fed, because then they have to feed them something else during the winter time, and they slow down their production. What this whole food industry is about is how do you have no interruptions?
Yeah.
How do you have consistency across the
right.
the whole system?
But I think, it in many, many ways, I'm so glad that we're looking at this as, I think it's way more than our nation. I mean, I would think that this is fairly global. Oh, for sure it is. I mean, I know it's in Europe and things like that. But that people are looking at this, and I'm so glad because I think that they're trying to figure out ways to continue to feed the masses.
Yep.
As well as how to make it a little bit more or much more beneficial or sustainable for people and the environment. And I don't think that they have all the answers. And I don't think that they said that they have all the answers. And that's why they probably went back to at the end. But what can you do? You can make sure that you're buying grass-fed cattle and...
Yeah, I know. But it was like watching the end of the Inconvenient Truth movie. They cut out... Al Gore has this whole explanation about how industry and government can be a part of solving the global warming problem. They cut that out of the movie, and instead they put up this list of things that individuals can do, like change a single light bulb and
Right.
and fold up your boxes, and like silly, just placating to people's sense of narcissistic individual change
Right.
of the world. The food industry is not changed by us having a garden in the backyard. It's not.
But it is changed
And
by
it's-
my choices and where I buy my food and what I buy.
I know, but but the way you're going to change the food industry is to have there be industry-wide systemic changes, and it's maddening to me to see that come. The only redeeming part was that they had the live audio of Bruce Springsteen ending his concerts with "This land is your land, this land is my land." So I could put up with that rolling list of silly recommendations
Right.
that play into people's foodie little elitist abilities that they think are going to change the world. I'm not saying someone shouldn't have a garden and someone shouldn't catch their rainwater. Of course they should. That's just not the answer to that question. I'm not saying it's not good and important. That's why in the movie, and I've said to you a couple of times, I really liked the guy from Stony Field Farms.
Yeah.
And, he was a radical guy in the early days, in the 70s, and they showed film footage of that. And now he's working with the Walmart people and getting his food in Walmart, and Walmart is no longer using the RGBH
the
milk
hormones
or whatever,
in the milk and everything.
hormone milk, that now, according to the statement in this movie, really put the death nail in that whole industry, simply because Walmart said,
Right.
we're not buying it anymore.
Right.
That's systemic change. Changing the farm bill, stop subsidizing
Right.
particular food. That's what's going to change the system, not people thinking, run around and yell at your kids for turning the lights off,
Right.
or for not letting
Well,
the water run. Like,
but
that's just.
But I also think that some of it is a personal mindset, and how what we do and how we think really matters. And I think I said to you last night that I see a correlation in so much of this with theology and different things, that it's now not just what does the government say that we should eat? What does the FDA say that we should eat? What are they recommending? What does the theologian or the well-trained pastor tell you to do? That you should go do that. What is the doctor telling you to do? Like, I think that the base of knowledge is now expanded to the point that we can find information, and I'm not leery to say it. I think we can find information, we can have conversations, we can take it in at a rate that acknowledges the fact that we are intelligent and that we can come together and think outside of the status quo on how things are, why they are this way, should it still be this way, and all of that. And I think that
But what happens in this world a little bit is it shifts from the chemist and the business entrepreneur from being the expert to your local farmer being the expert. So I don't know that it's really shifting to you, the individual, would know and create your own.
Right.
It's kind of shifting to go to the farmer's market and ask those people what you should buy, how you should eat, where you should get your food, how you should raise it.
Alongside, do your own information information gathering because it's available to you.
But I think most people do their information gathering from a different set of experts. So it's not like, now what I'm going to do is go out and discover my own world. It's instead, I'm going to listen to Michael Pollan, or I'm going to listen to the farmer at the... And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying it's more complex than there were experts, and now there's you as the individual. You're shifting your expertise to somebody who has a different set of interests. Like the info czar Rob Tarr is saying on here that he's found that he gets much better and cheaper meat by buying it from a local farmer in Ohio, where he lives, and it's better that way. So now he has shifted to another supplier with a better expertise that he likes. So all I'm saying is I don't think we're shifting into a world without experts and where everybody's running their own shtick.
Right.
I think it's a shifting from one expert category to another one. Like, that's what they did in this movie, right? Is they said, well, listen to Michael Pollan and listen to the farmer with the big eyes and the chicken farmer.
But also
Make those people the experts.
But also he said, it's interesting that he is one, and he, says in here that he didn't set out to necessarily be an expert in it, but in gathering the information and presenting it in a way that is accessible to other people.
Yeah,
then you get the whole story, which I think is.
Yeah, and I think you're right that what it's doing is breaking up the monopoly of how do people know and what do they know. But it could just be that it shifts from one small cluster of people who know to another small cluster. So one of the questions on here, we only have a half a minute left, but Chum Chum is asking, what do you think of Hallelujah Acres diet? So there's that whole Hallelujah Acres expertise subset that will, have their suggestions.
I think
so. You can give us that.
I can give you that answer. I think Hallelujah Acres falls. It's a vegan diet, and I think that George Malcolmus is a kook. Quite frankly.
Is he connected with Hallelujah Acres?
He is the founder of Hallelujah Acres.
There it is. He is officially a kook, and that's the end of the
book.
YouTube video. So.
Oh, I would love to talk more about that.
No, you keep talking. I'm just